Hello, Donna.
Hello, Cyrus.
This is exciting. But welcome to the Silas Talks to Everyone podcast. You're everyone.
I'm me.
Yes, you are. Now, I know you're Scottish, so you're going to hate every single compliment I'm about to give you right now. But the reason I wanted to talk to you is because you're a bit of an inspiration.
Oh, thank you.
So you run Homegrown Always Best.
Yes.
You run a Making Recovery Visible,
yes,
which is a radio program on Sunny Govan radio, talking about recovery and
clues in the name.
Yeah, and from recovery from drug addiction, for the record.
Just addiction in general. There's
not
gambling, there's sex, there's food, there's lots of addictions.
Addiction, yeah. And you're also, the promoter with the Homegrown Always Best. And you're a promoter with Freed Up Events, which is also a charity which organises drug and alcohol-free events for all sorts of addicts.
You didn't even need to read that off your wee notepad.
I know, I wrote that down.
Yes, that's about it in a nutshell.
Yeah, and the reason I thought you were an inspiration is because not only you battle all those things yourself and fucking came through it and going strong, but you decided to go back and try to help others out of it as well?
Well, that's part of your 12-step recovery program, that kind of part of it. It's like helping others, but when I first got clean and in recovery, I didn't want to work with addicts because I know what I was like as an addict and the hard work. But through everything else I'd done, through Homegrown and getting involved with something that was called AFIT at the time, and then when this job came up, everything was locked down, so nothing else was happening. It was like, right, okay.
Alright, so you're doing it because of the recovery. I take all the compliments back.
Right, okay. That's good.
No, but I still fucking, I'm genuinely like, I was like inspired and I was like, oh my god, it's a beautiful and a heart-wrenching thing at the same time. Oh. And it sounds tough. And just based, not only that, but like the whole admin stuff was thing, because you're the boss now, aren't you?
As of next Friday, yes.
I'm gonna close that door. Sorry. Yeah. But no, so basically where we were, yes. I was genuinely just like taken aback a bit, because that's a hell of a journey. So yeah. I guess the entry level question is, how did it all come about?
What bit?
I mean, some of it. I mean, I was just thinking, like, how did you? You were saying you started. What came first? Homegrown Always Best?
Recovery came first. So I got into recovery, and through that, so in active addiction, I used to go in at Sunny Govan, and Steg, the station manager there, is also a hip hop producer. So he used to give me CDs of albums that they'd produced. And that's the kind of music I listened to when I was in active addiction, but one artist in particular who was Mog, and I felt like that was like the only kind of connection I had, and because I used alone, because you don't want to share your drugs, do you know what I mean? So I used alone most of the time. So then in recovery, I got a camera and I started going out taking pictures of Scottish hip hop gigs, and can I just try to promote it a bit, and that's what Homegrown was. And then because somebody I know in recovery that worked in a recovery community was doing alcohol-free gigs, it used to sit with Northwest, shout out Brian got me involved in a photo voice project at first because he knew I was into photography. We had an exhibition, a week-long exhibition and stuff. So it's
like pictures of them voiceover stuff to like tell a story?
Yeah, well, it was pictures of the AFIT events, promoting the alcohol-free events, but at the time the minimum alcohol pricing was coming out, and they did like a kind of project run about that. We did like a project run about that. And then through that I got involved in the AFIT gigs and kind of became lead volunteer with that. And that's kind of, that was what I did. And they were more community-based events at that time, but I kind of went in the direction of having like a rave and getting like named DJs that people knew and stuff, like Joey Deaton, Morocco Lee. And then for there I just carried on with the homegrown stuff, carried on doing the AFIT stuff. We did hip hop as well with that, like as I said, because that was my thing. And then through Sunny Govan I did a radio production course with them first of all, I did a community development course with them that would have got us entry into like a second year and a degree, but I was really early recovery and I knew I wasn't ready to take that kind of, I was in my first year or something of recovery and I wasn't ready for that. And then I did the radio production and they offered us a radio show, and it was like, well, I had been in and out of Sunny Govan for like 15 years or something prior to that, like when they were like a really small station before they were FM and things like that. I had been introduced to them through an old care manager, and I'd never heard anything about recovery, so it made sense to do a show about recovery, and especially in Govan, do you know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
And that's what I did. So that was in 2019, started doing that. So I left rehab 2017, mostly homegrown stuff and the AFIT stuff. 2019 started making recovery visible. Then obviously the world locked in for a bit. So Sunny Govan supported us to teach us how to record at home and edit stuff and to be able to still create a programme for the radio. And they kept the station going, but obviously all the gigs and stuff like that I was going to at the time all stopped.
I mean, I can only imagine that lockdown must have been a pretty big trigger.
No, well, it was. I thought us as, especially 12-step addicts. So within the first few days, 12-step recovery groups moved online. Do you know what I mean? Within 24, 48 hours, there was 12-step recovery meetings online, and then the recovery communities kind of followed suit and had stuff online and that. So I think we were quite lucky because we still had that connection to each other and stuff.
Zoom gigs and stuff.
Yeah, well, no gigs, but meetings.
Yeah, okay.
Like 12-step meetings. So fellowship meetings, all that stuff moved online really, really quickly. So
because I haven't even thought about that, but I can only imagine that there was a lot of pressure mentally. I mean, everyone had a lot of pressure, and if normally that's when people slip up, right? I mean, I don't know about it, but what I've heard, stories, whatnot.
Yeah, and I mean, like I've met people that got clean through that time as well, through doing online meetings, people that maybe wouldn't have went to a live meeting, or people with kids that couldn't get to live meetings that then, because everything went online, managed to be able to get it and get the message of recovery then. So, I mean, it's a double-edged thing that way. And for me, it was all the gigs and stuff had stopped, and this job with the Scottish Recovery Consortium came up, and I knew it had been the thing that had been AFIT before, that had been moved to sit with the Scottish Recovery Consortium. And I kind of toiled because I'd never worked, I'd never had a job in my life by this time. And I ended up going for it and got it, and then Freed Up was born. That's been the past well 3 years. 3 years next Friday.
I mean, yeah, you've been doing hard work. You've been doing hard work for 7 years. I was thinking you've been doing work in recovery and helping others and talking to others and things like that for 7 years now.
For 7 years.
I mean, you're close to a decade. That's a hell of a lot of experience. And then
it's just for the day in that, Silas.
Sorry?
It's just for the day in that.
But and also, like, obviously your own experience as well. I think that I'm just not even fascinated, but I'm genuinely curious, like, in your experience, what are the biggest sort of hurdles for someone to start going into recovery? Or because you talk to so many people and you work with so many people, like what have you found?
I mean, I tend to be more on the recovery side of things when we work and stuff like that. It's about giving people that's in recovery somewhere safe to go and dance or laugh, or do you know what I mean? It's so I'm not really in like the front lines like some people in rehabs or
right, okay.
Do you know what I mean? That's actually working with people that are still in active addiction. Like I'm apart from within the 12-step thing, I'm kind of removed for that now, but I can only speak from my own experience. And like for years, I mean, like getting into a 12-step meeting and hearing that abstinence is the answer when you're used to taking some kind of substance to dull something is a scary thing. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's like, right, to sort your life out, you don't take any drugs at all. Do you know what I mean? And that was quite a whoa.
Yeah, I mean, people talk about, somebody was talking about alcohol and porn addiction. I was watching this clip, and it was a lot of people, the first sort of excuse them. It's like, I'm not addicted. I can put it down right now. And for a month, they won't touch it. But the idea being, but they know in the back of their mind that a month after, they'll be back on it.
It's like dry January and sober October. No, I can do it for a month. I can hang on for a month, but like the idea of never again.
That's the scary part.
And it's like, so the first thing is, are you powerless over it? If you start, can you stop? And if you stop, can you stay stopped? And does it make your life unmanageable? So you're spending all your money on it? Are you no showing up for responsibilities because you're watching porn on the toilet or sniffing a line in the toilet or whatever drug or choice it is? Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's the kind of 12-step thing, your addiction. Are you powerless, and does it make your life unmanageable? Yeah,
and it's a weird thing as well, because
which work does for me now. Work makes my life unmanageable now, so it's like it can manifest in any way.
I was gonna say that it's almost like we define addiction based on, are you doing a thing that's affecting all the other things you're doing? But that's not where addiction begins. That's what I'm trying to say is like, that's already addiction in sort of emotion. That's that's sort of the symptom of like you're doing a thing over and over and it's affecting the rest of your life. But addiction happened before it. Like the hook happened way before that.
Yeah, it's usually like to change some kind of feeling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To escape a feeling. So it was a lot of childhood trauma, and that's not an excuse. I know people, because I've interviewed people that have went through similar things and didn't go down the route of taking drugs, and I don't know how that happens, like how some people are more resilient than others, or if it's how people are brought up that they're more emotionally intelligent and can deal with stuff better. But for me, it was trying to escape childhood trauma and then using that as an excuse for why I used for years, and blaming, being in a mind state of blaming everything, blaming things for why I used.
So the thing, this is quite interesting because that resonates with me, because I grew up with a single dad from the age of 8. There was a tragedy that happened with my mum. I don't really talk about it out of respect for what happened because of her privacy. But for the longest time, I felt like I couldn't fit in. I felt like I wasn't enough, things like that. And if I would get in trouble, if I fucked up, I would always be like, well, I'm just fucked up because of my mum. What happened to my mum? So I would there was a lot of theories, especially when you're like in school, of like in this basic psychology theories of like, your first 7 years define the rest of your life. When you're finding a girlfriend, you're just trying to find your mom. All this like high school level psychology shit, which tries to excuse and blame everything to what happened in those first 7 years. And it's very convenient and it makes sense. But like at some point I had to be like, no, I am who I am. Like, maybe I used to say, I would get in trouble because I would make dark jokes and some people wouldn't like it. I would feel bad for offending them. I'd be like, well, I'm just fucked up. That's who I am. And at some point I had to be like, no, it's what I like. I like these fucked up jokes. Stop blaming.
It's how you can heal for stuff, is having a laugh about it.
Well, that too, but I genuinely like them. Like, why am I always... It's always like every time I blame my present issues on my trauma, I'm always keeping the trauma alive as well, because I'm not letting go of it. I'm like, well, it's still active in me. And it's a weird thing where you're like you keeping the thing that's fucking you up, you bringing it with you, while also like blaming your present issues on that one thing.
And that's the cycle I get in, because psychologists and all that would let you blame that kind of stuff and then give you medication to deal with, and then the medication kind of made you feel better about it, so then you took more of that, and it just became that vicious circle of taking something, for blaming that and then taking something to escape the pain of that. If that makes sense.
It's like it's a weird fucking mental prison. And I haven't been addicted to any substance yet. I might have some other issues, but I've been my only like saving grace is probably religion. As much as I'm not a witness anymore.
But that's a 12-step program's spiritual as well. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, no, I was never religious because I was brought up. My mum and dad were for Glasgow. One was a divorced Protestant, one was brought up Roman Catholic. So when they married, they didn't bring me up with any religion, and had their own views on how they were brought up. So I wasn't brought up with any of that. But then there's the spiritual side of the 12-step program.
Yeah, I have heard about it, and I've obviously with the comedy gigs and things like that, you meet a lot more people that are sort of in around or in rehab and things like that, and I've just heard different sort of insights on it, and it's an impactful thing if you make it work. But then there are also people that for some reason can't make it work.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work. It's hard work. It's not for the faint-hearted. Do you know what I mean? It is like work. It's not always like great days and all that.
I mean, I can only imagine. And obviously, we've all seen Trainspotting. I mean, how in your experience, how accurate even is that? Or because I know it's praised for being close, I guess, for Edinburgh anyway, but I don't know if it's true in Glasgow.
Well, I didn't. A lot of my using in Glasgow, as I say, was in a house alone, using. My kind of chaotic using was in the town that I grew up in, and that was that was something else.
Interesting. So is that something that's like in sort of I was gonna say not the lecture, but like in sort of that world, is there a difference when you talk about recovery between chaotic using and managed using?
Well, no, it's all still using, but like. So we used to go to the raves and stuff like that, and we were big into the rave scene and stuff. But then as the drugs progressed, the way you use progresses. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, if you look back, so in the 90s, folk used to take jellies, temazepam, to come down off of eckies and uppers, and then they were taken off the market. And weird enough, when they were taken off the market, that's when heroin kind of hit. But at the same time, in the prisons, so the guys in prison used to just get stoned, used to just be hash, but then back then they brought in mandatory drug testing, so back then you would lose days if you gave a positive MDT.
Losing days as in?
After your remission.
Right, okay.
So you would do more time if you get caught with a mandatory drug test, you would have more time to serve.
Yeah.
Cannabis stays in your system for 30 days, heroin can be flushed out in a few days. So the drug culture within the prison changed at that time.
And then these people are coming out, they're already hooked.
Yes. Or thinking they can come out and make a lot of money punting heroin as opposed to what they were maybe in for in the first place or whatever. And for me personally, that's how I think the kind of heroin situation exploded a bit, whether through design or not, I don't know.
You're right, fucking hell. In a weird way, if you look at it as like a completely amoral business person, it's like a fucking hit, isn't it? Because it's just the right people got exposed at the right time, off it went, and you just...
Yeah, because it went for... I remember when heroin hit Stranraer, there used to be some kind of morals run about the people that were selling it, and it was like you didn't sell somebody their first bag of heroin, you didn't sell it to single mothers, you didn't, do you know what I mean? There was like some kind of value set within it, and that quickly disappeared. You know what I mean?
That's interesting that you don't want to sell them the first one, and hopefully not their last one either. But
well, hopefully. And that's the weird thing about addiction though. I mean, like, if you're in active addiction and you hear somebody's overdosed, you want to know where they got it, because it must have been good. I mean, that's how insane you are when you're in that kind of lifestyle, do you know what I mean? It's like, you hear somebody's overdosed with gear, then you want to know where they got it, because it must be good. Wow.
Okay. I mean, because I was thinking about this, coming here, and I was like taking notes and things. I was like, what do I want to ask, or what am I really curious about? But there's some very dark humor in the thought of, if you actually look at it from the angle of discipline, addicts are some of the most disciplined people to a single thing. Like, fuck your David Goggins. Fuck your waking up. Like, you know what? You work out for how many hours, then you go see your family, then you go this, then you go to work. These are people that are committed to one thing 24/7. How's that for discipline?
Yep. And that's what they say when you get into recovery. If you put like a fraction of the effort into your recovery as you put into using, then you'll do all right. You know what I mean? Because you spend all day, every day that you're awake, finding, getting, and using.
Yeah, and it's a scary thought of just realizing that part of, or at least a lot of us, the only reason we avoided it is because our circumstances were the ones that weren't conducive to that. Obviously, people, free will is a thing, and people still make choices. But there's sometimes the gun's already loaded and aimed at a direction. You just have to pull it.
Yeah, and it's like you say, it's like when it's maybe some people are more predisposed to it as others. Maybe it's that nurture and environment thing, isn't it? Are you born with it? Do you become it? It's like, for me, it doesn't really matter. I feel that I'm it, so I know what I need to do now, not to be it.
Yeah.
It's like I still need to keep up with all the things I did early recovery with the 12-step stuff, but that's gave me the ability to go out and live life.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's been sort of, because I have not my own angle, but I've been fascinated by shame and pride. And the one thing that I've heard different sort of podcasts and people talking about their own experience, that there's a fundamental feeling of shame about using sometimes, but the reason people use it as well is to like mask that, make that feeling go away, or is that promise of like it will completely dissipate if you do enough, the shame will completely go away.
And I don't know if it completely goes away. I mean, again, I can only speak for myself, but it's like, so for instance, I got clean when I had my son, when I fell pregnant with my son, but I didn't have the 12-step recovery thing, so all I was clean. I didn't change any of my thinking, any of the way I behaved, any of that kind of stuff, and I ended up using again. So I had my son thinking I was never going to use again, and had all this in my head, and then circumstances were the domestic violence and other things that I could blame, do you know what I mean, to then go and use again, and then my son having to live through that and be through that. So then you feel bad for like the shame for that, the guilt for that, so then you use more to cover that, do you know what I mean, to try and until it gets to a point where the drugs just don't do it anymore. They become more like you're just using and you're still in the same kind of frame of mind. That's how it was for me. I mean, like I went for before I got 12-step, because I stayed in Govan, and then I ended up in a women's hostel in Govan Hill, and that's where I was introduced to the idea of 12 steps by other people in the fellowship that worked and volunteered in the place I was in. And I'd be using, but still just like pure, just wanting to die, do you know what I mean? Because nothing made anything better anymore. Like the drugs didn't make anything.
The plateaus. I've heard about that.
I don't even. It's hard to really even describe, and like folk call it a rock bottom, or just that the drugs didn't work anymore, or whatever. But that's the kind of space I was in, and it just so happens that it was the right time for me. And if you go down the spiritual side, was it a divine intervention? Was it like some kind of higher power looking out for you, whatever? Do you know what I mean? But that was the right time for me to be exposed to that, because all the years previous, I'd never been open to the idea of abstinence, I don't think. Like over the years, I had been on methadone scripts, I had been in and out of prison, in and out of mental health wards, all that kind of stuff. And looking back, there was times when I was exposed to the idea of 12 steps, but I was completely closed-minded to it. But at that time, I was like somewhat open to it and managed to get it. You know what I mean?
What do you think changed in that? Like what I'm genuinely trying to understand is what was the moment you go, I'm gonna give this a shot? Obviously that doesn't apply to everyone, but...
So I get taken to my first 12-step meeting when I was in that hostel, and I was still in a script, I was still using. And the idea of total abstinence and the word God really kind of put me off, because of my experience with trauma and stuff. So I've spoke about it before. So I was sexually abused by my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, who was a Roman Catholic, who went away and got forgiven and came back and carried on doing the same stuff. And when that all came out when I was 18, that's when my drug using changed, because it had happened to the whole family, it had happened to my mum and her sister. So then it became not just blaming that, but blaming my mum for not keeping me safe, and that caused a lot of friction through the years.
And also it would literally cut you off from other community, it would cut you off from like
from everybody anyone. Yeah, that was just it. I was in this like that's when my whole drug use and my whole psyche kind of changed, and then using on that for years, and then using that to manipulate my medication off of doctors and psychologists, and do you know what I mean? Because they would just let you blame or let you.
They're like, yeah, they're trying to be kind and they're trying to help, but there's an element. It keeps
you stuck in that blaming mentality and poor me and then all that stuff's still just winning then, because like it's dictating your whole life. Do you know what I mean? And the first time I kind of heard about, right, what happened was shite, but what are you going to do about it? Do you know what I mean? Was in a 12-step fellowship. And no put like that, obviously, do you know what I mean? But yeah, it's like, right, you've got the power to change it. It's like, I was always looking for somebody else or something else, whether it was a substance or a person or a service to fix that. But I had to do it myself.
Yeah, it's a thing where it's like it kind of teaches, it gives the option to feel good about yourself for making decisions for yourself. And before, there's a lot of shame around, this is what happened to you, you're using the drugs, shame on you. And then you go, yeah, okay, all of that happened, but I can be proud of the fact that I'm fighting it. And it gives you a little avenue one way to feel good about yourself.
Yeah,
kind of.
So going into that meeting, then
I'm trying to understand.
No, I still don't understand it all, because it's like it just it felt just a natural progression for me to. It's just because it still blows me away. Like since I was like 15, 16, this is the longest time I've ever had like no taking anything or even wanting to take anything. Do you know what I mean? And that's been the healing journey of the past 7 years. For all that stuff, because it's like there was that, and then I had my son thinking that I'm going to be clean all that, and then everything that happened for there, do you know what I mean? So that kept me using for years, because he ended up going to my mum to stay, do you know what I mean? So then you feel guilty and you feel the shame and all that for that, and then that keeps you, because you've got all that piled on top of the other stuff that you've still not dealt with, do you know what I mean? So it's just all this trauma and shame and stuff that you've done, like just piled and tap each other and piled and tap, and until even the drugs don't take it away anywhere, do you know what I mean? And then introduced to the 12-step thing, and through that I got offered to go to rehab. I got offered, and for the first time when I went in anywhere like that, I didn't even use going in, but I was still going to smoke hash, because that wasn't a drug to me, because I was brought up that hash is a herb and it's a plant and it's not a drug, and that was actually the last obsession to go. Do you know what I mean? I was like, I was going to give it a go, but I was still going to smoke hash. Do you know what I mean?
It's I'm pretty sure I saw this again in a podcast or something about, I think Miley Cyrus called it California sober, or Demi Lovato called it California sober.
Yeah, they still, aye. So, aye.
Which is, I'm sorry, it's a stupid idea. I know it sounds lovely, but it's stupid.
But, aye. But when I started going through 12 steps, I could see because I smoked hash every day. I spent all my money on it. Do you know what I mean? Like, even before heroin or anything, it was always a thing. So I got that denial smashed, but it was like, so I went into rehab. I did my detox in rehab. I hated rehab. No, everybody does. It's like, I've shared in rehabs and I'm not advocating leaving early, but I left early because I was like 40 by this time. So I'd come out of prison clean, swore I was going to stay clean and never. I'd done it every other way, and this was the first time I had decided to go 12-step recovery, because it was the first time I'd heard about it, but the first time I'd been openly heard about it, and then because I'd been sectioned before and they tried to take us to a meeting, and it was just like in a church, and then I was in prison, and people that were meant to be 12-step recovery came in, but I was never open to it at these times.
You've lived quite the life.
Yeah. So I was 14, I decided to get a good go, so I left, and that's what I did. I got involved in the fellowship that I'm part of, started going through 12 steps, and did all the things that are suggested within the fellowship, which is being a service to the fellowship, being a service to others.
And just finding things to feel joy and proud.
Well, that's it. You start doing something because you do service not to be shouting about it. Do you know what I mean? It's like you'd go about it humbly.
Still feel good.
No, but that's it. But it feeds your spirit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like you still like you're allowed to feel good about it, even if you're not.
Yeah, but you're not there shouting about, oh, I do this and I do that. Do you know what I mean? It's because that's just egotistical and you want a badge for it. But if you're doing it, going about doing it for the right reasons, then you start feeling good about yourself because you know you're doing something good. Do you know?
Yeah, no, because my mental challenge was because of the witness upbringing, helped me in many reasons, but the one big damaging thing they taught me was like feeling proud of yourself is wrong. It's shameful. So I would feel, it's a weird fucking mindfuck, but I would feel you would have the instinct to feel good about something. I would feel shamed of feeling it, and then I would feel good about denying myself to feel good. It's such a fucking...
My sponsor calls that meta feelings about your feelings.
Yes, that's what I had. So I'm very aware that I could have been, like, I've had all the right sort of things to end up in it, but somehow I avoided it. Thank fuck.
Well done.
But I mean, I don't know how much credit I can take for it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was lucky as well. But where was I going? There was a question that sort of occurred to me. Obviously, now that you're sort of living this clean life and you're post, do you look around society and see addictive behaviours in people that is acceptable? Because you must have like a giggle to yourself when you hear some of these power hungry fucking business bros.
That's an addiction. Money, power, it's all addiction. Like you can see like traits of it, because it's like, so you need to become aware of how you act, and defects are closely linked to the things you're talking about, the 7 deadly sins. Do you know what I mean? It's like, where does all these things come from? Gluttony, greed, lust, all the things. So if I'm acting out on any of these things, there'll be a consequence to pay for me. That's, do you know what I mean? I know that. But when you look about, it's like everything's set up to get people acting that way. Do you know what I mean? Like Amazon, sloth and lust, Amazon, do you know what I mean? Just click and buy and it's delivered to your door. The whole world's set up to be the opposite. I mean, it's convenience, but it's a weird one, because like Facebook will do it, right? Their argument is, we're trying to make our platform as much fun as we can make it, but it's super fucking addictive. And they pick the sounds when you click on something and the notifications in a way that they look at like, how can we make people use this product as much as possible? And they're not looking at like, but are these people using the product because it's good for them, or are they using it because they're fucking getting addicted to it? Yeah, and TikTok and Instagram and they're all the same. They're all like set up just to
and
for you to use and use and use. Yeah.
Yeah, and I understand the argument of like we just making it as fun as possible. We're just
There's a Panorama advert, a Panorama program that talks about how Amazon was set up for like people that were involved with Amazon early doors, how they actually set it up to be like that, like it is actually set up to trigger your lust and your sloth. And
I mean, they tend to do that, like
it's not just by accident.
No, like even I'm gonna go back to talking about Andrew Tate, but the one thing that I've talked about this a bunch of times, the one thing he does really well is he targets the ego. He goes, you're a broke this and that, you're worthless, but if you look at me through this way, you can end up being like this. It's like breaks you down but gives you the way out. And it's like, it's very much of like feeding on that. If you get that hook of like, oh, this feels amazing, I give you something to be proud of, and you just keep going back to it. And then the more you do it, the more like, oh, this is actually viable.
Anything that's going to give you a good feeling, you'll chase more.
Yeah.
And just that drug addicts take it to a different level.
Well, drug addicts are the ones that stuck with the one thing, you know. Like,
that's true.
I mean, that is just, if you look at it from that angle, like, fucking hell, like, I just kind of imagine that motivational video of like, fucking I'm up at 3 a.m, fucking chasing the high, where were you? We're not the same. You're in your bed at fucking 9 a.m, trying to get 8
But look at a lot of people in recovery, it becomes like exercise or cold water dipping, or there's always something, do you know what I mean? And if you can't just be, it's just the human condition.
It's not like, there's something fascinating about how actually addiction is something that we're all capable of, and it's all, as you said, in everyday behaviours. Like there's people addicted to all sorts of shit, and like sometimes you have to ask yourself, why am I doing the thing am I doing? Like I just feel the need to do it sometimes, but you go, but do I actually need it, or is just a little voice in my head going off?
Yep.
Like it can be either, like I've noticed I was slipping a little bit recently where I get used to like, I go to work, come home and just binge. And like 3 hours have gone past, I've seen I don't know how many YouTube videos and shorts, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like this isn't, what am I trying to take care of? So it was an interesting thing, but recently I was like, you know, sometimes life gets a bit too much. But I would be like, well, you know, feeling bad for yourself, you know, you should put a gap, you shouldn't feel too bad for yourself. And I was like, man, you know, maybe sometimes it's okay to be like, why me? You know, sometimes you should feel shit to get it off your chest.
It's like, you need to, no, it's not always going to be alright, but you need to like try, well for me, I can have a shit day, but not to get lost in that shit day. Do you know what I mean? I can chill out and have a shit day and be right, this day's a write-off. I'll stay in my jammies, sit on the couch, scroll Facebook, watch YouTube videos, but not to get stuck in that.
Well, yeah, that's, I mean, yeah, there's that sort of balance thing of like how much is too much, but like the thing I was trying to get to is I realize sometimes the reason I do those things is because I'm not allowing myself to feel the underlying pain and pity for myself. Like, it's okay to pity other people, right? We tell you, like, if you feel bad for someone and you feel sympathy and empathy, that's perfectly acceptable. The moment you feel it for yourself, it's like, what are you, a fucking loser? Like, I'm not saying walk around all day going, woe is me. But like, have a fucking cry. Like, sometimes life sucks.
Yeah.
You know?
It does.
And you just need to get it off your chest and then try to deal with it, but... I just noticed it recently in myself.
Yeah. It's alright to feel that.
And to think it of like, oh, you know, don't get lost in it. Remind yourself that this is temporary and you're going to be okay, but you can have the thought. Which was for me, it was like, oh, hang on, that's what I'm doing wrong. I'm trying to be strong all the time.
You came to a whole new country and made a whole new life for yourself. That's amazing.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I had some fucking moments there. I'm actually, I'm always weird about accepting compliments for my achievements or the work I've done, but I'm like, yeah, I did do those things. It doesn't mean that I think I'm the shit, but I've done some cool things. Let's find out what else I can do.
Yes. See?
But yeah, thank you though. Yeah, I've done some cool things. Thank you very much.
I mean, you fucking came to a whole new country where you didn't speak the language, made a life for yourself.
Did you say life or wife?
Life.
Okay.
Life.
I was like, oh, what did I miss? I've never been
That's
to Vegas.
how you got to stay here.
Little behind the scenes information. There's a missing Scottish sugar mum somewhere in the Highlands.
I heard your roast, I know where you got her.
Oh, shout out to the Toyboy Warehouse. That's all I got to say. You've done your research.
I was there. At the roast.
Okay. Okay, right. There is one thing I have to ask you about,
Okay.
and it might be a bit sensitive.
Okay.
But I know that there's a word you specifically hate, and you talked about it. But I wanted to ask you about it. Is the word junkie?
Aye.
And I know because in the stand-up world, you'll hear it used.
Yes. In the hip hop world, I heard it used. I used to walk out. It used to trigger me.
Right.
No.
Did you not go on Twitter and write about it? No.
Twitter's a cesspool of toxicity.
Fuck yeah, but like I'm genuinely curious about this because that's something.
No, well that's it. It's like me getting offended by what somebody says. Somebody's only maybe talking about their experience or what they've had with addicts, and I mean, like being one of the addicts for years, I can see why people think that way. You know, sometimes because they don't understand maybe the underlying issues of people or how people have ended up where they are, and
Then like someone like for
the
instance,
stuff that's in papers, the stuff that's reported on. I mean, you just need to walk through the town, do you know what I mean? And it's like how people, no force, because you're not forced to be an addict, do you know what I mean? But how people end up using, you can see why people have the perception and the thoughts that they have.
yeah.
Sometimes it depends who it is staying it, I think, for me now. Because I can hear some comedians that I know use it, and then it doesn't bother because I know them as people.
Yeah.
And that they're empathetic people and they're brand new people, but if it's like somebody new, I'm kind of like, depending on the joke and stuff like that. But for me, you can't be offended by what people say.
I mean, you can be offended is what you do with the offence.
Yes, yeah.
But like someone like obviously Alan, he's grown up around it. His parents, like he would naturally would have resentment towards his parents of like, you chose this drug over your child, which is an understandable thing.
Yep, we spoke about that when
check out his episode on Making Recovery
check it out.
visible on Sunny Govan radio.
Because some of the stuff he said kind of triggered me, and like I says that to him, it's like, but it gave me the ability to go home and talk to my son about some of this stuff, because it was like, right, because we're all human, right? So underlying, we've all got the same feelings and general makeup. So hearing, and I said that to him too, it's like when he first started doing comedy, when I first seen him in Salsa, he seemed a lot more angry comedy than what he does now. Yeah,
which is a lot more understanding and there's a bit more empathy.
It was as if he's been working through stuff as he's been doing his comedy.
Yeah, you're right. I remember because
I mean?
Yes, because he had, I don't want to spoil any jokes, but like he makes a joke about his mum being clean.
Yes, and that was the one at Freed Up. I was like, I don't know how this is going to go, because I'd heard it obviously at a night, and then he done it at Freed Up, and I was like, but then people like did laugh after, they cheered and were shocked.
Yeah, I want to be very careful not to spoil someone else's joke, because it's a great joke and it's worked in many ways, but
yeah.
Whew.
But so that stuff did, like, No, triggered me, because I hate that as well. Do you know what I mean? But it brought stuff.
You can use it, but there's no shame in saying I felt a certain way. You know,
I did. I felt a certain way, and that gave me the ability, because my son's dead shut down because he's went through all that stuff. So he doesn't talk about feelings much and stuff like that, and we don't really talk about much. But through Alan's comedy and me feeling that, I've managed to go home and open the conversation around about stuff, and me and him's managed to get closer and work through some of that stuff just through hearing Alan's stuff. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, when something makes you feel something, there's something there to work on. That's how I look at it now. If I'm feeling a certain way, if something makes me feel uncomfortable, or then it's usually something I need to go away and do a bit of work around about.
And then, you know, to be fair to you as well, there are cases when people will use humour to mock, to deride, and then they'll try to brush it off. Oh, I was only joking. But it's the way they tell the joke where you can tell that there's a bit more weight to it, there's a bit more... It's not just, I'm going to make a funny joke about this, even if it's dark. Sometimes it's like, fuck them. Get it? We know what we're talking about. Like, we've all had that experience.
Yeah. And I mean, even like Susie, like somebody at one of Susie's gigs shouted something out about junkies, and Susie pure shut them down in the gig, and that was like a heckle for the crowd. You know what I mean? It's
I was there when she said, you know, don't use that word, I can't use that word, and people cheered.
Yeah.
And I was genuinely curious, because I mean, I haven't been involved in that world, but it, you know, free speech and all. I was genuinely curious of like, what are the different sort of perspectives on that word specifically.
I mean, like, we use it within recovery with each other. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I suppose it's like the N word. It's all right for us to use it, but it's not right for you to use it.
No, I'm genuinely curious. Like, it's because like sometimes the same word can mean different things to different people, and for someone is triggering, for someone it is not. And the experience you've had, if you've been mocked and derided with that word over and over again, but someone had a completely different experience with that word, who's right? Who gets the moral sort of high ground of like, no, I tell you, you can say don't use it around me because that's how I feel about it.
But I just think in general people need to, it used to be sticks and stones don't break your bones, and names, you know what I mean?
Words will never hurt me. I mean, that's bullshit. Words will hurt you, but there's things you can do about it.
Aye, but it's like, take the power back, man. Why care what somebody else calls you or thinks about you? It shouldn't matter to you.
I mean, I don't know for everyone, but I can tell you, for me, because I was very sensitive to how people perceived me and how people talked about me. And if someone even remotely criticized me, I would feel horrible. I would feel empty on the inside. And I had to teach myself to be like, no, like, I don't have to depend on other people's opinion of me to validate myself. Like, why am I validating myself only when other people agree with me? And
but that's a process in itself. It
calls back to like the addictive thing of like going, fuck, I need to fully, like, the way I had to explain it to myself is like, if you don't want to be affected by people's negative talk, you have to detach from their positive talk. You like, if someone compliments me now, I go, thank you, and I explain it to myself as they, for whatever their reasons are, decided to give me a compliment. That is not the objective fucking reality that I go, therefore I am the shit. I just take it as somebody decided to do a nice thing. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. But I don't try to make it my identity.
No.
And it's been weird to be like, I have to fully give it up. And if I don't want it to have power over me in a negative way, I have to renounce the positives of it as well. And just going, I will never look at a compliment the same way again, was like, oh fuck. You know, again, I've like completely given it up, was just like, oh shit, that's, I mean, I can give it up for a month, you know, for the rest of my life. I've got only me.
That's it, mate.
Yeah, but you do. You really do.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about it is, if have you had that information growing up, you wouldn't be so weird, but because you didn't have it, now you're like, what the fuck? You're like weirded out about it. So yeah. We should probably talk about the freed up events, because there's like the really cool ones.
Really cool ones?
They're probably all cool, but I've only been to the freed up ones because I'm not a DJ.
Yeah, so we've been running, so we're obviously using time. Through Mikey we get introduced to Dawn at time, and through that we ended up with a monthly comedy and a monthly rave. Obviously yourself and some of the other comedians who spoke about have all did freed up events, and I mean I love them. I love being able to come out to comedy nights looking for new comedians and stuff like that. And we do the DJ workshops through Sunny Govan, and then the DJs come on and DJ at raves, and we've had the pleasure of having some amazing DJs as well, like Joey Deaton, like Mal, Gonzo's been there since the start. It's just and it's been a journey, man. And when time shut down, we really struggled to get a new venue, because normal venues want to double and triple their hire fee because they're not making money off the bar. Do you know what I mean? So we kind of struggled, and now we moved into the space, and we just tried to keep it going as regular as possible. But it's had its challenges as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm smiling because you very graciously skipped over.
We did have other venues that we tried that we were asked not to return to.
No, I don't want to. We discussed, like, we're not gonna. You've already, it's already out there. There's no point in rehashing that same old story. But I would like to make the point that one charity denying access to another charity working with recovering addicts over a fucking joke is bullshit. And I don't care, you consequence culture and freedom of speech, and you can hash it out online. They've denied access in a venue to a charity working with a local charity trying to help build up the community over a fucking joke. They didn't say don't bring back the comedian, didn't say do this or that, just
cut us off like an old dead tree.
Oh, there's a poet in you.
There's a lot of things like that.
Well, we know what there isn't.
For supremacy.
We'll know what there isn't. Valleys.
Very true. But yeah, so we thought we'd found a new home for comedy, then that didn't work out over a joke. It was quite a funny joke, to be fair.
But it's interesting as well, because the community, the recovery community, it's not just one. I'm going to use a classic Republican term of monolith, but it's not just one way of thinking about it. There are people that don't mind jokes or comedy about that topic.
Yes.
Like, I remember Mikey, and they fucking love him. Every time I've seen him, the freedom community loves him. Am I spoiling the joke? He does make a joke referencing he misses Aki's, right? And they laugh, and they're fucking howling, because they know that he's been part of it. Like, he's talking about the experience that they all shared.
Yeah.
But then maybe another community, another charity were like, no, we don't bring that up at all. We don't fucking know that.
I do know there was another organisation put on some comedy nights, and they did try to tell the comedians what they could and couldn't joke about. I do believe one comedian, I don't want to say it in case I'm a wee bit wrong, but I'm sure one comedian got told he couldn't make some jokes about his dad. A comedian that hosts his own night on a Monday.
Yeah, okay. Oh.
So, aye.
That fat dick. If you know, you know.
But yeah, so it's like, but you can't, cause I mean, like the hip hop stuff. It's like you can't censor art. I don't believe, and I believe comedy's art. I really believe that. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't believe you can, or we should be. I suppose people can, but that we should be censoring art at all.
I mean, I agree. I mean, I'm a freedom. I come from
Romania.
Romania.
If you disagree
Like,
with it, then you need to have a healthy conversation about why you disagree about it, and not just try and cancel people or shut people down, or do you know what I mean? There needs to be grown-up conversation rather than just can you say this or
but
that.
sometimes it literally comes down to, I don't like you talking about this. I like talking about this. Well, okay, fuck you then. And even that I can understand if you're like, you know what? I don't like that. I don't like those ideas. I don't want to promote those ideas. Again, fine. It's a bit of a Puritan way of going about it, of like, I don't even want to have those ideas discussed or mentioned in my presence, okay? But like, you need to build a community where it's okay to talk about stuff. And I know that it's like, people roll their eyes of like, the only way to fight racism is by having better ideas. Fair. But community helps. If people don't feel like they're completely shut out of communities because of their, what they believe in, and you say, you know what, we believe in, as a community, you're allowed to have wild fucking
and how
beliefs.
do you know who to stay away from if you don't know what their actual beliefs are and what do you know what I mean? It's like, if everybody's just going about kidding on that they're this and that, then how do you actually authentically connect with people and know what people you don't want to be about because they actually think these things?
I mean, that's how you get Brexit.
I mean?
It was like, everyone was like, oh, no one's going to vote Brexit. And then bam, they did. They really fucking did.
And you still chose to stay here with us.
Yeah, because your trains still run relatively on time.
Cost a bomb, but
fucking don't get me started by the UK trains, man. Like, why? Why the fuck do British train cost that much?
I don't know, mate.
150 quid for a bus journey that costs 20 quid, and then fucking a flight that costs 70 quid or 60 quid. Why is train the most expensive option? I don't know. I don't have jokes. I don't have any jokes. It's not even Scotland. It's all of them. Like, what the fuck? There's one thing that's gonna get me drinking is the fucking prices of these trains. And it's like, oh, but you can't drink alcohol on a train. So no wonder people are drinking. They just spent 60 fucking quid on a 20-minute journey that there's 3 strikes on. Yeah. Anyway, back to Freed Up.
Okay, back to Freed Up. So yeah, on the 8th of March 2021, I started work, first job ever. And we were just coming out of lockdown, and we managed to get a venue that had an outside space, and we kind of started monthly events there. And over the years it's just developed, and 3 years later, the charity that it sits with now supported us to form as a community interest company, and we applied for the contract and were awarded the contract last year, and the handover starts next week.
Does that mean you're going to be the big kahuna?
Allegedly.
Allegedly. How does it feel to be a grown-up? I mean,
I don't know. I'll tell you once I've done it for a wee while. For somebody that's ran away from responsibility for years, it's actually like quite a like, oh shit, I need to do this now.
Yeah, there's something about when you start doing things that you believed for the longest time that you couldn't, or you shouldn't, or you wouldn't be able to, and then you face it and you're like, I might actually be able to pull this off.
Yeah.
There will be the risk of your inner voice going, fucking just, nah. Yeah, just nah.
There's been part of me over the past few weeks that's just wanted to run away, to be fair, which I did. I went on holiday for 10 days just to get away from everything. It's like, whoa, I need a break before all this starts. But yeah, the past, since I came back, it's just been like, getting all sorts of stuff that you don't even think about that you need done, and even just like sorting bank and insurance and policies and employment contracts and hundreds of stuff you don't even think about.
Yeah,
like, I got to do this, I'm going to do this, oh I've done this, oh shit, I need to do this.
Nah, you'll do it. You'll fucking smash it.
Yeah.
No, because I keep bringing up Alan because I am losing his flat, but he's
Thanks, Alan.
Love you, Alan. You're the best. But Yeah, we're just...
Happy birthday!
Yeah, oh yeah, it's his third birthday. Allegedly.
He's seen a lot of things.
Oh, he's 3 on the outside, but on the inside, he's fucking 70.
He's in the fetal position.
The things he smelled. Bless him. But he's talked about, should I even talk about this? But he has brought in, because he's going back into education of, like, for the longest time, he labelled himself as, I'm just not a good learner, I'm just, and then realising, no, I can actually do this. But having that label, which has become a comforting thing.
Yeah.
And in a weird way, it's like you've made peace with it, you learn how to be proud of it, and now it's like, your ego doesn't want to let it go because it knows it. Mm-hmm. It's such a weird thing of, like, giving up the things that are bad for you, but because you got accustomed to them.
It's your comfort zone. It's like, and you breaking out of that is sore. It's like uncomfortable. It comes with all the feelings.
Yeah.
It comes with all sorts of feelings.
And there's also, like, there's a weird fear that you won't find that comfort in the new thing again, which is bullshit, because, like, so many people have. Why are you the one person who can't fucking work?
But you say that's your ego telling you that. Do you know what I mean? And that's bullshit.
Like, logically speaking, like, statistically speaking, the chances are so minimal.
Yeah, because that becomes your comfort zone until you're ready to break out of that one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's going to be alright. You're going to do it and you're going to be alright, but it's just getting through that again.
Yeah.
Especially when you've told yourself, oh, I'm stupid, I can't do nothing. I mean, like, I was on benefits for years, I was getting an alright, I was actually getting more money on benefits, I was actually better off on the benefits I was on than what I was when I started working. You know what I mean? Because it comes with that, it's rent and council tax and all the stuff that you've just never had to deal with before, so I was better off on benefits, but I found a purpose in what I do and I enjoy what I do, so that, for me, weighing that up is worth more than having more money.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, what are you going to do with the money?
Spend it, mate. On my massage habit.
Oh, you have a massage habit now?
A massage habit. My phone's full of dealers.
I'm only laughing because I actually have material about it now, but I've started getting massages.
It's a bollocks, mate. Massage and Reiki.
Oh. I don't know the Reiki, but I like an old...
chakras aligned.
Yeah, no, I like a good old elbow in my spine. That's what I'm a fan of.
Bamboo ones are the business.
Bamboo?
Yeah.
I haven't tried bamboo.
Yeah, warm bamboo. Yeah.
I'm trying to get into stretching or yoga, basically, but if it's not yoga, then it's like stretching and things like that, because 10 years of hospitality will fuck you up.
I bet you, mate. Probably in worse shape than I was a 10-year using.
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, maybe mentally, there's not that big of a difference, because I hate people the things I've seen, enough about your trauma. Let me tell you, the things I've seen fucking giving people noodles on a daily basis, I've seen a woman bring a fucking hard-boiled egg and pull it out of her purse in a restaurant. It was an Asian restaurant, and I kept thinking, does she just have an egg?
Just checking about her bag?
Yeah, or did she come to our restaurant specifically and went, nah.
I'll bring the eggs.
Yeah. like, where else would you go? Like, fuck, bring your own seasoning. Fuck it. Like, what else? Do you know what I mean? Like, just bring some lamb chops. Like, I just get the pasta, thank you. I've got my own lamb. Like, what the fuck? And then, the complainers, man. I'm gonna... You set me... You've triggered me right now.
Go for it, mate.
I served a woman... I'm not gonna tell where I used to work, but we served ramen, right? That's all I'm gonna say. And this woman asked for a specific ramen. And she couldn't decide between a ramen and a stir fry. And she's like, I don't know what to have. And I was like, well, The ramen is this. And I gave her the exact list of ingredients, all of them, because we have to learn them. How it's prepared, how it's laid out on the fucking dish. Like, I could have drawn a diagram, there was fucking arrows, all that shit. Or you could have the stir fry, which is this. She goes, I'm gonna have the ramen. And it was like a middle-aged woman with her son who was about my age, so 20s. But I had a vibe, so I just told my manager, keep an eye on that one. There's something off. She runs the fucking ramen to the table. She looks at it and goes, I don't want that. A fucking 40-something-year-old woman? Like, how did you survive? Eat the fucking soup, you cunt. I was like, what the fuck is this woman thinking? Why did you make me do all the song and dance? You know, sometimes heroin does sound like fun, you know?
You could spike your customers with it.
Imagine. Fucking... Oh, you don't want that fucking soup. Here's what you're getting, pal. This cake is getting an extra fucking layer, man. Look at this sugar I'm sprinkling over it. Oh. Okay, some of that is just jokes. Yes, please, we do not spike.
No, but we don't.
It's fabrication.
We don't condone spiking people with heroin.
Not even salt. I've spiked my dad a couple of times with salt in his coffee. Salt in his coffee. Okay. But I don't think the consequences were worth it.
Did you get barred?
Well, no, I didn't get barred much, but he was a working class Romanian dad working 2 jobs to make ends meet with with his son that he was raising by himself. I don't think he appreciated the salt in his coffee. I don't think that's what he needed that day at like 10 a.m.
No.
I thought I was being fucking slick. I was like, it's April 1st. Yeah. Oh, the other thing I was curious about, right, is because of your work in like arts and things like that, there's a very annoying sort of belief out there that drugs enhance art. And the artists need to be experimenting with all sorts because that's where creativity comes from.
Yeah.
And it pisses me off because I don't think it's true.
I suppose that over the years, like a lot of famous writers and musicians have been indulging in some kind of substances, and I really need to find out, because somebody told me this one time, and I've never been able to find out who the author or the person that wrote the book. So a guy that stopped taking, I'm not even sure what substance, this could be totally, no it's not, somebody did tell me. So somebody stopped taking drugs thinking that they weren't going to be able to be as creative and stuff like that, and then found that they were in fact more productive and creative afterwards. And there's a book somewhere out there, so I really should find it, because I've quoted this a couple of times and I don't actually know who I'm talking about, but it's like once the mind clears, because that's what I mean, like, I wake up at like 3 and 4 in the morning. That's when I come up with ideas for stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's madness the way like my brain works with stuff like that. And
she's on that grind. Where's your fucking grind sit?
And like, see if I'm no like physically doing stuff and working, all that happens is coming up with ideas for other stuff to do. Do you know what I mean? And that's clean. Whereas I didn't do anything when I was taking drugs, because I was too busy taking drugs.
Yeah.
I suppose if you've got the life of luxury with drug use and you're just getting the drugs, then maybe that's can be more creative. But no, I have heard that like people need drugs to be creative and stuff, and I do think it's a bit of a fallacy. I
mean, I have a theory that, again, there might be people that do, I don't fucking know, but my theory is that people use the drugs to deal with their issues and have it, or at least make those voices go away, the criticism, the self-sabotage. So now they feel more at ease to create.
That could be it, aye.
And then say, well, I just have these amazing ideas because I was on drugs. I'm like, no, you can't. is you fucking medicated yourself.
Yeah, you just shut up all the self-loathing and self-doubt and stuff like that with the drugs, and that freed you up to be able to...
And it, instead of you going into the process of like, I was thinking a lot about this, and I was very proud of when I came up with this. But I was thinking how a lot of people, when they sit down to write or create or solve a problem, they approach it with, like, they mentally give themselves the command of like, right, give me the solution, as opposed to going, let me find out what solution I have, or do I have a solution? Like, having that openness of like, let me see what I can come up with. They actively go, let's solve this for me. And your brain goes, I don't fucking know. Like quite often we don't even know what level we're at, where we're at in this problem solving process, or how we feel about certain things. So it takes a while to like the part of your soul to get back to be like, okay, this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
So I think we're like forcing something to happen instead of like just being fucking
like
play around.
It's like people get that destination addiction, that once I get to this or once I do that, but a lot of the time the fun and the learning and all that's in the journey of doing it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I wanted Homegrown to be the thing that I'd done right at the start, but if that had been the thing I'd done right at the start, I'd be stuck doing that now, whereas I love what I do now. Do you know what I mean? So when things don't particularly work out how you want it, it's like just enjoy the journey.
Yeah, and yeah. I feel like you should be a motivational speaker.
No.
It's just, imagine.
Folk would make memes of you and all that and put your words next to you and all that, that's crazy.
I know, I just seen you like, just enjoy the journey, you can't.
Just enjoy the journey. Just chill, mate.
Any other nuggets of advice you wanna?
No, see, you've put me on the spot now, my brain's trying to think of a solution and it's just like, no.
But like, anything. What would you say?
What about what?
To yourself, to be like, go and stop being a
Just give yourself a break, man. Give yourself a break and just like fucking find something you love. Like, we're talking about that, so like that I still hate talking about it, I cringe. So like the higher power stuff, I'd never had any kind of spiritual belief, do you know what I mean? And now having that, I get a feeling. So see that wee feeling that I get, I try and do what that tells me. Do you know what I mean? I'm terrible at explaining this. So like if I get an idea and I get the wee feeling along with the idea, then I need to make the idea happen.
How would you describe the feeling?
I'm terrible with feelings. Don't ask me to describe feelings, fuck's sake.
I'm not saying name it, I'm saying just...
It's just like a wee kind of excited, excited feeling, just right in your kind of solar plexus and about your stomach and solar plexus, just in there.
You get butterflies?
Butterflies.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And then like because that's kind of what I've so all the decisions you make in active addiction, right, are fueled by your want to escape feelings, right? So see, getting to trust your feelings again when you're clean, that's like a process in itself, and it's still 7 years in. I still need to like navigate that. I still don't fully trust, but that's one feeling that I trust. Do you know
that's fair. Like I don't know why, but early on I learned there's one feeling not to rely on, which is that fucking, oh, you can't do this, don't do this, this is gonna be bullshit. The feeling that tells me when someone's laughing around me that they're laughing about me.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you have zero evidence.
Yeah.
It feels real, but it's not.
Yeah. No, totally.
But it feels real.
Yeah.
But you have to remind yourself of like, you have zero evidence to support this theory.
Doing other people's thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was I gonna make? Yeah, like that whole idea of like, just go with your gut instinct. Just go with your instinct. And I'm like, yeah, but some people's instincts are telling them to get more heroin.
Exactly.
Like you have. I'm a big believer in feelings, but I also think you need to use your brain.
Yeah.
You have to use both.
your brain, and like for me, it's as long as whatever I'm doing is principles. So there's principles that go along with the 12-step program, and that was when your 11 steps going and finding out what your higher power is for yourself and getting a connection with that, right? So I went away with the Buddhists, went away down to Dumfries to the Buddhist thing.
We don't know with the Buddhists?
They're hardcore, man. So like you're up at like 6 in the morning for a vegetarian breakfast, praying by 7 o'clock on your knees on the stone floor, no noise after 10 o'clock. Me who loves to listen to tunes like all the time, I was like, right, my higher power doesn't want that for me. Your higher power in fellowship is meant to be loving and caring and want the best for you, right? My higher power didn't want that for me.
I've got a feeling that the most offended you were by the vegetarian breakfast.
No, it was the name music. It was the name music.
So name music then the vegetarian breakfast.
Aye, because I like the odd vegetarian meal. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
But then I went to Roslyn
Chapel. Out of your
shell. Out in Edinburgh.
Right.
And they had spoke about the spiritual principles, right, of the programme.
Where was this again? Sorry, because I overspoke.
Roslyn Chapel.
Roslyn Chapel.
So I went out there, and out the back of that it's got all these wee statues, and at the bottom every one of them's a spiritual principle, and they're the same. So that's when, for me, I realised, for me, again, what everybody wants to believe, but there's universal spiritual principles, and they underpin every religion, just religions, and even like Buddhism and all that, they all use that as a control mechanism.
Yeah.
But the universal spiritual principle. So in active addiction, I went about thinking the whole world was against me, that pessimistic, horrible outlook in life, that the whole world's against you, and that everything that happens is because I'm a terrible person and stuck in that darkness. Whereas if I'm doing my best to live by these spiritual principles, the universe conspires in my favour. That's what I believe now.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I had to learn as well, like...
Because you were brought up a witness, that must have been like hardcore.
Yeah, that was. I mean, they just cut you off from different things, but there was a couple of things that my dad really drilled into me. One of them was looking on the bright side of stuff, of finding... Did you say this, of finding the joy in the shade? Somebody said that to me. No. But the idea is like finding the good stuff even in the bad stuff. Of if somebody else has done it, so can you. And just all that sort of thinking, and kind of puts you in this mindset of like of just plentitude. You know, like there's more than enough. Mm-hmm. If one door closes, another one opens. Don't get attached to a single thing. Don't fucking... Yeah. And reminding yourself of that, and gratitude and all that stuff. And that helped me a lot. What didn't help me was like just not being allowed to think outside of the cult, not have... Everything you were supposed to read or learn was through the prism of the cult. So... I wasn't supposed to read novels. I did, and that's how I learned a lot about the world. But like, they would tell you not to read these books. They would give you books on how to debate other religions. They would give you their own interpretation of science and history and geography. Like, I used to believe the world was not 6,000 years old, because days were like, every day was like 7,000 years, and then so that would put the world about 48,000 just about years old and shit like that. I mean, it all made sense. It was a beautiful little story. Like, I had lore, you know, like I was like this weird RPG character with fucking tomes of books about how the world came about. And yeah, just sort of stepping back and being able to see the world for myself, not how they try to get to you first and explain the world to you. So then your confirmation bias keeps you in it. Because when you see the thing, you're like, I know what that thing is. But it says in the book that's what that is. And yeah, I was lucky enough that I could see a different perspective.
And you came here.
Yeah. For acting and comedy.
Which you're doing great at.
It's been going really well, actually. Mm-hmm. I'm quite grateful. But yeah.
No, it's impossible to be negative and have gratitude at the same time. If you practice gratitude, then you can't be negative at the same time.
Yeah, not at the same time. You might still be like, I'm negative about this, but if you got gratitude, then yeah, that's a powerful thing, isn't it? Mm-hmm. I mean, the other thing I was going to say, because you mentioned it, of like, there's a massive power in sometimes taking a step back and looking at a completely different perspective of yours. Of just like, sometimes go out and read a book from a different country. Or listen to music from a different country. Simply because they'll be so far detached from whatever's going on in the culture around you that you hear a completely fresh take.
Yeah.
And it even if it doesn't solve the problem, it will just remind you that there's other boxes out there. Yeah. You don't have to be. You might be so close, stuck in the one you're already used to, that you won't even consider that there's other ways of doing it.
100%.
It's a good reminder.
Yeah.
Look at us solving the world's problems one day at a time.
Brilliant. Silas for Prime Minister.
No. Can you imagine having to talk to some of those people, man? I would slap him. I don't know how. Yeah, I would. I mean, I don't know if I would, but I would want to slap him. Yeah. Yeah. Why is the political class in most countries so fucking slappable? I do not condone violence. This is a metaphorical slap. But
because they're brought up in their own wee cult, aren't they?
They are, man. I used to work in Windsor, and we would get the kids from Eton College come in, and they would book a table, and you could smell the next Prime Minister, right? Like, it was one of, like, you were like, you know, it was in the air.
You served them?
I did. I was like, yes and no. So what would the gentlemen like a fucking? Would they like chicken or vegetables? What would they like? How does gentlemen eat their pasta? You know, all that shit. Yeah, it was a unique experience, but yeah. Again, very slappable. Yeah. I'm sorry, don't slap anyone, but you do think it.
Yeah.
All right. I think we kind of touched on all the stuff that you do. Have we? Homegrown Always Best is where all the events and the DJs and the raves happen.
No. Freed Up's where the raves and the DJing happens.
So I fucked that one up. So what does Homegrown Always Best do?
Just hip hop.
Besides just
representing Scottish hip hop.
Word life.
Yeah.
Okay. So Scottish hip hop.
Scottish hip hop. That was the first thing that I get into. Going out taking pictures of that.
Yeah. I remember.
And then I started having a gig every year for my clean time. So it's usually mostly Scottish hip hop artists that run that. So every year I have a gig for that.
Donna's a wee ledge.
And then so that's just hip hop. The DJing came about because I did DJ workshops with Sunny Govan, and when I was talking about them, me and somebody else did them for the Govan Music Festival a couple of years ago. And then when I was talking to like my pals in recovery, they were like, "Oh, I'd like to do that." So then it was like, well, why doesn't Freed Up do that? And Freed Up did it, and it was dead. It was emotional. It was the first time I had cried happy tears, was watching them at Recovery Connects, because I know, like, it was a 6-week course, and like some of them, they all put hundreds of work into getting their set right and stuff, and then when they done it, and just the joy on their faces, and just that they had actually achieved it, because we sprung it on them like 4 weeks into the course that they were going to do Recovery Connects, which was quite a big event, like a couple of thousand people in the event and stuff, and they did it, and they smashed it, and they danced, and they played their tunes, and that was like the very first time that I cried happy tears. I think it was one of the first times I actually cried in recovery, because like, as I say, I pushed feelings down for that long. I've not felt any emotion for years, do you know what I mean? And then like Trisha broke me that day at that event. Shout out Trisha.
Well done, Trisha, well done. Keep that going.
That was my heart just like pure like, oh. And that was one of the times when it's like, I'm doing I'm doing like what I'm meant to do, like just watching people like doing stuff. And now we're doing it with hip hop and stuff, and boys that did hip hop workshops in rehab that are out making videos and tunes and stuff, and then just watching them up performing at events and then other wee gigs, and them just smashing goals that they want to do, man. It's just like, see, even to be a tiny part of that in Sunday's journey, man, it's like, it's just amazing. It's, no, and then we've got Stephen that does the photography and stuff, and just watching him take every opportunity that's put in front of him, and some amazing pictures and stuff that he, because I don't get the time to do that now. It used to be like my thing was taking pictures and
you're the
doing them
CEO
all.
now, so
I'm not CEO. I'm volunteer project manager because we've not even got money to pay a wage for me until April, so I will have to apply for that job as well, just to be fully transparent. I will need to go out and I will need to interview for the job with the rest of the board.
I guess I got one question left. If you had to say anything to yourself 10 years ago, 15 years ago, what would you say now?
About 15 years ago, what was I doing? 50? What year was that?
2009.
2009.
Is that correct? Yes.
Answers on a postcard. 2009, I'll tell you where I was in 2009. 2009, I was getting ready to go to court and ended up with an 18-month prison sentence.
Jesus Christ.
Is what I was doing in 2009.
I didn't even ask about the prison.
There you go, I'll just tell you anyway.
I just realised I completely glossed over that. But again, it's not enough to get you in one interview. It's like your life has too much packed into it.
But that's see now that person, that life feels like a totally other person. It really does. Do you know what I mean? But 2009, that's what I would have been doing. I went into prison. I came out of prison, came off my methadone in prison, and came back out and had every intention not to use again, and ended up in active addiction again for another 2017, another
8 years.
8 years.
Oof.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you think you could have told yourself then to be like, I'm genuinely curious because we all think about this.
I know, I do think about it, and it's like, I believe now that everything that's happened's brought me to where I am. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I can't hate any part of that journey.
But it's also like, because we all have a defense mechanisms for our beliefs, you know? And someone might have given you the right answer at the time and you would have been like, nah, and carried on doing what you were doing. I don't know.
I don't know.
There's no way of knowing.
Nah, I can't answer that. I think everything's meant to happen the way it's happened now. I actually do believe that.
I believe that we all try our best and it turns out what it turns out. But as long as you did that, whatever you ended up with, you didn't waste your time.
This is very true. So now I just work too much because I love it.
Well done. Nah, I mean, it's hard not to be like moved and proud of you. All the fuck, like, you only know the shit you had to crawl through to get to where you are. As you said, a completely different person. I mean, again, I just look back on the witnesses stuff and I'm like, what the fuck was that guy thinking? Like, 14 years ago, I probably thought, well, not 14, but like 15, 16 years ago, I don't think I would have had a gay friend, you know, like,
I know.
because hardcore Christians.
Yeah. Mental on it.
Maybe I would have had one, but it would have been like, I don't know if I should be talking to you.
You'd have been ashamed of having a friend.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mental on it.
Yeah, it's wild.
And now you're sitting here on this couch with this wee 3-year-old penguin, traumatised penguin.
Yeah. I feel like the penguin's a good place to leave it, a good place to end there. Just zoom in. Can you see these eyes? These horrified, pained.
Dead behind the eyes.
Is the fucking thousand. This penguin has seen the Vietnam equivalent of cops. It's seen enough cops from the Vietnam War, both sides.
Oh.
I think.
Poor thing. I only heard about it one thing and that was enough.
Check out Alan Jay's comedy to find out why the penguin is the way it is.